Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lender who helps it grow. Lance Sexton, John Riosti in the house. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Interesting article came out survey by Goldman Sachs. And I want to talk about that, but let's ask, we haven't done poll questions in a while. Number one, what percentage of small businesses closed due to the Omicron surge?
Well, I'm very interested to see, Bob, what this number actually is.
Joseph, you got my notes, Joseph? What do you have?
I believe you said 37%.
Yeah, it's close to 40%, believe it or not.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, a big number. Lance, you seem surprised at that.
Well, I've not noticed it in this part of the country. I'm not surprised in bigger cities, but gosh, it concerns me, Bob, because I start to wonder if there's going to be another round of PPP someday.
You know, Lance, you need to start reading the script.
I surely should.
Lance, I don't know what to do with you. See, Lance, we do all this work. We send these scripts and...
Hey, Bob, I was just setting the question up.
No, they're very good. We did an excellent job. What percentage of small business, Main Street, say, hey, I need a 3.0?
Hey, Bob, I've got to be honest with you. Dealing with the people in the forgiveness process, I'm not surprised by the 75%, even 100%. I think most small businesses still are struggling for various reasons, and another round of support probably is something they would support. A tougher question, Bob, would be what percentage of participant banks support PPP 3.0?
Oh, that's a great question. Joseph, make a note. Can you put that up real quick, Joseph? The answer is 82%, by the way. So we allowed anybody who answered 75 to 100 got it right.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that, Bob, because most small businesses still are not where they want to be. Now, I do know some businesses that have done quite well.
Yeah, but and this survey is up to date in terms of, obviously they're talking about Omicron. They surveyed over 10,000 businesses, so they have a very large data sample. Anyway, let's go to the third question. What percentage of small businesses experienced a drop in revenue due to Omicron?
I've got to guess it's going to be a high number, Bob.
71%. Yeah, you got it. I'm a little shocked by these, John. I didn't think it was this impactful. What's your opinion?
Well, when you start to unpack the numbers and you think about categories of business, the ones that are most likely to have suffered a drop are also the ones that are just where there are tens of thousands of businesses. And by that I mean small restaurants, that focused on dine-in, gyms, anything like that. Think of all your fitness clubs.
They're getting hammered. They're getting hammered.
Yeah.
No, I think it's some other interesting. Joseph, are you going to be able to put that poll question up for banks?
Yeah, can you repeat that? I'll do it real quick.
I would just be curious what percentage of participant bankers would support another round of PPP.
Got it.
3.0.
Give me a couple of seconds.
Go ahead, do that. Go ahead, Lance.
The thing about the Omicron virus that is interesting, at least from a personal perspective, in the previous versions, if you said, Lance, how many people do you know that have COVID? And my answer would have been, 2 or 3. Now it's 10 or 15.
Yeah, you're right. And yeah, it's some other stats which are interesting. The most significant problems, number one, obviously finding and retaining qualified employees. No surprise at that. 50%. Supply chain issues, 19%. And inflation, 18%. John, give us a 101. Why is inflation bad?
And
Let me give you a little curveball out here. Well, why is inflation bad for lenders and for Main Street?
well, for Main Street, it's bad because prices for anyone, prices can rise faster than, your sources of income can catch up. So I'm suspecting, though, that for businesses in general, inflationary periods may be somewhat good because people at a certain point catch on and say there's no point in saving this money that we're earning. We might as well spend it because the assets that we can buy now are very likely to cost X% higher if we wait a month, 2
We're all experiencing that. Lance, I know you, your family owns furniture stores and whatever. I'll let you take a whack at that question.
Well, from an inflation perspective, the problem they're running into is, a bedroom suit that would cost $1,500 a year ago now cost $1,800. And, you apply a normal markup and suddenly the bedroom suit has gone up $500, $600 for the consumer. So it makes it more difficult for them to buy. I think the biggest thing that my brother is experiencing from an inflationary perspective is shipping costs.
Yeah.
Almost everything that he gets, like he'll buy a truckload that used to just have a normal freight charge. Now it has an added on freight surcharge because of the high price of fuel. So it definitely is impacting small businesses throughout the country, even those that are doing very well.
Let's see. It's 67% 2 and 3 small businesses have openings. 87% of those are finding it difficult to recruit and fill those positions. Regarding inflation, 84% of small business owners say inflationary pressures have increased since September 2021. I'm surprised it's that low. And 76% say their business financial health has been negatively impacted by inflation over the past 6 months. What I find fascinating about the study, John, is most of the studies we've got is it's been rough, but I'm okay. I'm managing this. I'm optimistic. This is the first study I've seen where people are starting to maybe not throwing the towel, but saying, hey, I'm having real issues.
I think there'll be more, and I was alive during the late 1970s and early 1980s, but I was a school ager, and I really wasn't concerned about inflation. I remember hearing about it, but I wasn't making purchasing decisions back then. So,
well, John, and I was going to say, I was a youngster working in my father's furniture store at that time, but the inflation impact then, interest rates were dramatically higher than they are now, and the fix. My concern about inflation, guys, is the fix is to increase interest rates, which the Fed has indicated they're going to do, and what impact those increased interest rates will have on small businesses across the country, because they've got low-cost funds that they can access now, and suddenly the price of that's going up.
Yeah, but you're right. Our entrepreneurs need to be Renaissance people. They've got to sell, they've got to hire staff, and now they have to worry about economics in terms of pricing their product correctly, hedging their bets. And
Bob, if we can tie back to the question about how many small businesses would support PPP3, this sort of links to the inflation question, because if there were to be a PPP3 and there were a significant amount of added stimulus for small business, it's quite possible that could impact inflation, because most economists...
In the area where we could have a PPP 3.0.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you see any scenario where we could get a PPP 3.0? Any appetite on the Hill for that?
Right now, I would say no. I would say they're very concerned about inflation, and I would say the last thing they would support, barring some very significant change in the situation, is more stimulus.
I agree with you. Let's ask the question anyway. What percentage of you out there would support a PPP-3 for your small business people? Or is enough enough?
I'm going to get, yeah.
Yeah, I would have said that too. Yeah. Yeah, 2/3 say we're two and done. So.
Well, I think most banks are experiencing fatigue from PPP.
Well, we're all experiencing COVID. John, I want you to talk about activity. I don't know. Do you listen into these quarterly calls that SBA does? I don't know if that's on your radar.
I listen to the calls, but I did take a close look at the activity, particularly 7A, and I saw that it's, you got those loan numbers up there. And the thing that interests me is we're certainly not at the level of 2019, 18, 17, when those were the real record years for SBA. But if you we're at least above in terms of numbers of approved loans last year. And last year started relatively slow, finished extraordinarily strong. I mean, that's a possibility here. So there's that. And one of the things these numbers indicate, 2021 versus 2022, I think, is without being certain, because there's not, the data isn't parsed as finely as it could be, or finely enough to make this conclusion, draw this conclusion, with some degree of certainty. But it looks like lenders are making more small loans.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of that 504 activity is because there was a bubble of loans that were held over, but 504 is going strong. It looks like they're going to exceed their authorization. If you heard
I think 504 will get back to our conversation about inflation. Everyone is looking at interest rate rises.
Locking it in, yeah.
And say, why not? Why not lock in a significant amount of financing at these rates? Because we won't be able to do it in 6 months. Or, well, we will be, but we won't be able to do it at these terms in 6 months.
John, do you see an appetite in Congress for, if we run out of money in 504, or for that matter 7A, of increasing the authorization limits?
I don't think we'll like that question for 7A, but probably they'll face it at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's 504 is looking like it's going to run out of money a lot earlier than it did. So they won't simply be able to say, well, let it stay closed and pick back up in a month.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to face that question, because it's you look at the numbers and you just extrapolate, and we're just under $3 billion one quarter, and you multiply that by 4, and you're at something like 11.5, which is far in excess of the authorized.
Yeah. Lance, my feeling on that is it's such a small amount. I think they're not going to let it go 3 or 4 months on a hiatus.
Without funding.
Yeah, 504 has bipartisan support, as does 7A these days.
Well, and I don't.
Go ahead, Lance. What's your?
I really, Bob and John, don't think 504 demand's going to fall off. I mean, it's just going to, give us a couple of interest rate bumps, and it'll even get more frenzy, because it's a great product.
The entrepreneur's going to say, hey, they're serious about this. What's going on?
Yeah, I had a conversation with my brother about it. I'm like, hey, do you need to buy a new building? Because an SBA 504 loan is the way to go. And so, I mean, I think the demand for the 504 product is going to remain very strong.
John, what other stories you're working on? Last week was earnings. I'm not even going to ask you about the stock market, other than it's a correction. I'll follow Kramer's advice. Don't panic. But what do I know? And what does he know? So there.
Well, one thing I did work on that involved SBA, and it kind of got it fell by the wayside because the last Monday was a holiday. But I had done the story. The company used to be called ACAP. Now it's called Nuity. You know, they're talking about getting into 7A lending in partnership with Northeast Bank, and ultimately doing 1,000 loans a month. That's their goal.
Wow.
They've set for themselves. Small dollar.
Define small.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Everybody defines small as 150,000 and less. They say they want it to be, significantly below 150,000, but still, these would be considered substantial loans. And that's why I'm interested with SBA in the numbers. I wish that instead of, all we can get, from the current SBA reports is 150,000 and less.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they broke that out.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know the Community Advantage is probably doing loans significantly below that, but they're a very small fraction of the overall program. It would be nice to see, say, 50,000 and under, or 25,000 and under, to find out.
That would be.
Look at some of the if we're talking about the numbers. Look at some of the high volume producers. Look at Huntington, which has just about 1,000 loans on the books through the first 3 months, and their average loan size is about $140,000, but they've done so many loans, 973, that a lot of those have to be really small.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't talked about the CFPB in a while, and they are still pursuing small business disclosure reporting. So there's going to be pressure on SBA to do those more detailed reports. Part of their interest will be small loans, et cetera. That's CFPB. We haven't talked about that in a while, John, but that's not going away, and we'll talk about it in the future. Lance, I'll let you go ahead and answer this question. When hotels lenders mistakenly infer or interfere with the allocation of the fixed furniture, fixture, and equipment and real estate because the SOP is not clear. Shock. What do we do, Lance?
Well, I'm a little confused at the question, but I think I understand it. He's just wondering how to get a clear statement from SBA in the next SOP, and one of the best ways to convey your concerns about an SOP matter is going through your district office and just communicating with a lender relations specialist at your district office or the district director if you have contact with them, and just making them aware of what your concern is in terms of allocation of FF&E and real estate in a hotel SBA loan. Now, I'm not aware of what the challenge is, and I would just ask that maybe you send a clarifying email to Joe or Bob or me, and maybe I can help you with it. But the way to communicate your concerns about this is through your district office. And they are saying that a new SOP is going to come out sometime this year. So the time to do it is now.
Yeah, I think he has to do with maturity. We can go 25 years on the real estate, but only 10 years on the equipment. I think he's talking about mixing and matching that.
The blended maturity that might, yeah.
I think that's what he's asking. Well, very good. Lance, real quick, what are you doing on Wednesday?
Well, I'm deep in PPP forgiveness challenges, problems, and issues. And guess what? We're going to talk about some of those on Wednesday. Things like guaranteed purchase, 544 errors. How do you deal with a seizure? I'm still waiting, guys, for my golf cart and bag of money that I filed a claim on. But just some of the special servicing requirements from SBA. I was talking to somebody at SBA, Bob, actually somebody not at SBA that used to be at SBA, but we were talking about servicing guidelines on PPP, and we got that little brief snippet from SBA in the form of an IFR. Guys, what I'm going to talk about is my experience, because a lot of these solutions we've had to figure out on our own. So best practices in dealing with
Bring your questions.
Yeah.
John, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
job at the reporting, Lance. See you on Wednesday. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street. One entrepreneur.